we'll just give it a minute and then we'll start. Some housekeeping notes. We will be putting at the end of the session a survey for Q&A purposes. Please let us know how's your experience. We'd love to hear the good, the bad. It's all a gift to us. And for the speakers, I'll be giving, well, we have 20 minutes for each speaker. And if I'm standing next to you, that means you have to wrap it up. All right. If I'm there and pointing my hands, you have to really stop. And then we'll have some time for a Q&A from both the audience here and online, because we're live. And so I'll start the session now. And today is panel L, and it's building and using institutional repositories. We've been hearing a lot in the last day and today about alternatives to gold publishing. And we can see that institutional repositories, as many of our speakers have mentioned, could be the way. So to start us off, we have Dr. Arif Shaon from Qatar National Library with the presentation, a national research repository for Qatar, fostering a sustainable ecosystem for open research. I'm really looking forward to hearing about this.
All right, good. It's still good morning, right? So good morning, everyone. My name is Arif Shaon. I oversee the digital curation, preservation, accessibility of various digital collections at this library. Your gracious host for the conference, which I hope we've been enjoying for the last couple of days. So today I'd like to talk to you about the library's journey in developing a open research repository for the country, or national research repository, if you will. There's no prize for guessing what it is. I guess it's already been mentioned in a couple of presentations yesterday. It's Manara. You can even Google it, and it's already open access and everything else there. But the work undertaken to develop the repository not only aims to support open research within the wider academic communities in the country, but also strives to contribute to a sort of a broader, sustainable ecosystem for open research on a both, I would say, a national and perhaps even a regional scale. Here's some of the things. Let me see. Oh, yeah, here it is. So here's some of the sort of key points I'd like to walk you through. I really thought I had a little bit more than 20 minutes, but as I've been informed by my esteemed colleague, Dr. Al-Waleed, that I have 20 minutes, which means that I had a couple of slides where I highly talk about, talk about the wonderful work that the Dr. Al-Waleed has done. So I might have to skip those slides. So see how it goes. See how it goes. Well, then there's a couple more slides with your name on it will be removed. Okay, so we'll just get right into it. So let's start with a bit of an overview of the mission and the vision of the library, just to kind of set the context for some of the things I'd like to talk about during the course of the presentation. So if you look at the mission and the vision of the library, which you can, it's available online at the link displayed at the bottom of the slide there, you'll find the library aims to establish itself as a knowledge hub or center, if you will, for learning, research, scholarship, by fostering a culture of creativity, innovation, inclusivity, while preserving and safeguarding the nation's cultural and intellectual heritage. And in doing so, the library plays a pivotal role in the country's transition from its heavy reliance on hydrocarbon-based economy to a more sustainable knowledge-based economy. And the grand plan for all of this is actually outlined in the Qatar National Vision 2030, and library makes significant contributions to the execution of this plan, primarily through these three functions. There's a public library function, national library function, and the research library function. Now, while all three functions play a pivotal role in the library's growth, progress, and its operation, it's the research library function that directly aligns with the research components of the Qatar National Vision 2030. Now, if you take a closer look at the library function, the research library function, it's actually divided into three main areas of operation: the scholarly content provision, curation, preservation, research output, research support, and facilities. But in particular, under the scholarly content provision, the library has been operating a consortium-based cost-sharing model to support access to various subscription-based journals and databases. So these are not only available to our patrons, but also to institutions and other sort of libraries, universities, and so on. And as you'll find later, this consortium based model actually plays a key role in developing the service model for the repository that I'll talk to you about. And in terms of the other services, they collectively sort of designed to support long-term open access to the scholarly content or research output produced by the researchers of this country. Now, what do I really mean by long-term open access? Now, when we talk about long-term open access to scholarly content, it means more than just publishing your research outputs, whether it's traditional or non-traditional, through open access, even adhering to FAIR principles. I'm sure that they've been talked about in the presentations that have happened until now. But the long-term aspect of this means more than just that. It actually it involves the act of ensuring that the content that's available today will remain accessible, discoverable, understandable, and usable to both the current and the future generations of users. In other words, we're talking about long-term digital preservation of these research outputs that are being published today. And the open access has long been a core value of the library. And the library has been doing a tremendous amount of work to advocate and sort of promote open access. And I mentioned I was going to talk about Al-Walid, but I will mention that Dr. Al-Walid's been instrumental in sort of moving this cause. He's been an avid advocate and a champion of open access in this part of at least in the country. And in the same space, the library actually launched an open access author fund. Once again, spearheaded by Dr. Al-Walid, this open access author fund is actually designed to support researchers who are interested in publishing in open access journals to cover the article processing charges. I'm sure this has been mentioned in some of the presentations earlier in the conference. But it's been a tremendous success, and on the basis of that, the library now aims to move, and this predominantly supports gold open access publishing model. Now, on the basis of that success, the library now wants to shift its focus towards provisioning green open access publishing model, and this is where the development of the repository Manara comes into play, as it's designed to enable provisioning of that while ensuring the long-term preservation of the content that's actually published that way. Okay, so that's one of the drivers for the library to set up a research repository on a sort of a national scale. Let's look at some of the other drivers. To do so, we need to sort of take a look at the current state of play within the wider research landscape in the country. Now, if you've been following, Qatar's progress in the R&D sector over the past decade or so, you'll have observed that, the country has a rather sort of a developing research landscape, with several noteworthy achievements. And the main driver has been the Qatar National Vision 2030, and the implementation of which has been led by a number of key institutions, and the chief amongst them is Qatar Research Development Innovation Council, QIDIC. They've had a few name changes over the year, but more recently they're called QIDIC, and they're the leading funding body in the country, supporting various research activities pertinent to the Qatar National Vision 2030 mainly through their flagship funding program, National Priorities Research Program, or NPRP. And some of the institutions who are sort of taking part in these or actually doing the actual research supported by QIDIC, they can be grouped in various sort of categories. There's this international branch campuses of international universities. There's also local universities led by Qatar University, which is essentially the leading university in the country. Then we also have several research and scientific sort of facilities or centers. They're also contributing heavily towards the kind of the R&D in technology and other sort of innovations. Then we also have, if it works, a few government entities, including the National Hospital, Hamad Hospital. In fact, you will hear a presentation from Hamad bin Khalifa University in the same session after, probably the last one there. So all these institutions together are really contributing to the research scene in the country. But if we look at their practices for managing research outputs, not just publications, but also research data, there are some gaps. So there isn't always a standardized approach to managing research data. There's definitely limited, in fact, somehow, in many cases, lack of understanding of the importance of digital preservation. There's definitely lack of clarity around, enforcing IPN copyrights. But let's be honest, those are really hard subjects to have a handle on. And then, of course, there's a reservation across the board about publishing non-traditional research outputs. I mean, researchers are generally okay with publishing, sort of in papers and journals and so on. But when it comes to publishing the research data that underlies these papers, there's definitely reservation about publishing those. And all of these could lead to a number of sort of, potentially serious consequences. So, you could have insufficient data for accurate reporting. Of course, lack of digital preservation could lead to loss of data, limited utilization of rational resources, duplication of research effort, and many other things. So what are the challenges? The challenges are definitely, the first one is basically there's lack of awareness. Despite Dr. Al-Walid's effort, there's still there's a gap in the awareness of the importance of doing all these things. But of course, the awareness needs to be transformed into good practices. And if you have those good practices in terms of managing research data and sort of other sort of research workflows and so on, then it will be possible to develop good quality research output. But that also needs to be supported by relevant expertise, both sort of data librarianship related as well as discipline specific expertise. Then there is a possibility to create good quality multidisciplinary research outputs. So those are the challenges. How do we address them? What is the solution? The solution, whatever that may be, it needs to be guided by a set of principles for ensuring sustainable research output management. Because when you unpack research output management, I mean, there are a number of activities, the planning, curation, publishing, and so on, and they need to be supported by a set of robust services, covering various areas. But more importantly, those services need to be underpinned by solid policies and procedures. Now, it's overwhelming to have all of that imposed on a institution of small size or perhaps even individual researchers, and so this is where considering the Qatar has a relatively smaller sort of in the research communities compared to some of the other sort of countries in the West. I think what's needed is a nationally coordinated approach to ensure effective curation, preservation, and accessibility of the research outputs that are produced by our researchers in this country. But more importantly, that approach needs to be underpinned by a robust, sustainable service model that incorporates active contributions and collaborations from all key stakeholders. Now, that is the key to get buy-ins from the key stakeholders to ensuring or creating a sustainable ecosystem for open research in the country. Now, with that in mind, the library signed an MOU with QIDIC, although at the time they were called QNRF. And this has been a sort of, this is a result of several years of working together to promote research data management, open access, and so on. And the wider goal, the ultimate goal of this MOU to actually develop a research repository on a sort of a national scale. So we did that during the pandemic, almost. So in 2022, the library launched Manara, which is a Qatar research, open research repository, and there's the URL there as well, so you can go and have a look if you haven't already. But of course, the prep work for that, had begun much earlier than that, actually towards the end of 2020, which is kind of when we were kind of just getting out of the lockdowns and other sort of restrictions imposed by the pandemic. And the Manara, in case you were aware, it's an Arabic word that means lighthouse. And amongst many things, is actually designed as a shared research repository platform where any Qatari or Qatar-based research organizations pretty much can get their own space. And in fact, you will hear from our colleague from HBQ, how they're actually using their space. But one of the sort of main sort of selling points or the features that were offered to the researchers as well as the institutions was that any content that's published through Manara would be digitally preserved, because the system itself, which by the way is based on a commercial product called Figshare. We have a few colleagues from Figshare in the audience as well, so if you have any questions, you can ask them. But it's integrated with the library's digital preservation system. And that is sort of, as far as I know, is the first of its kinds in the library, in the country. That you have a research repository that's directly integrated with the digital preservation system, thereby, guaranteeing or at least, ensuring the longevity of the content that's being published through the platform. We'll talk a bit more about that in a bit later. But what is the main goal of this repository? The main goal is the long-term open access to research outputs in the country. But if we unpack it, then what we have is the goal is to sort of capture and digitally preserve various research outputs, not just traditional research outputs, but also non-traditional ones that are sort of created or somehow related to the country, and of course to provide open access to these content over the long term. But more so, all of this together are sort of intended to facilitate an environment that's conducive to collaboration, partnership, and thereby facilitating a sustainable ecosystem for managing and disseminating different types of research outputs in the country. And to sort of, to achieve those goals, we've developed a 3-tier consortium-based service model. And this leverages the service model for providing access to e-resources that I mentioned earlier. So we were in a bit of a unique situation where we already had some experience of running a consortium-based model, so we were able to sort of base it on that. But it enables institutions to kind of get involved. So it's not just the library running the platform on its own; it's actually being shared in a sort of productive and collaborative way with other institutions. So they have their buy-ins within the sort of the underlying principles as well as the objectives of the platform itself. But in practice, we basically have sort of 3 layers of services provided to different types of, the user groups. The tier 1 is aimed at your individual researchers. As long as they have some affiliation with a Qatari institution, they can have an account and they can publish, upload their content, which are, curated and published, and of course, in an open access way. From the tier 2 onwards, these are essentially sort of, aimed at the institutions. As part of the tier 2, it involves signing an agreement with the institution, providing them with own sort of repository space where they can pretty much curate and publish their own content. Tier 3 takes a little bit further, where the library actually actively works with the institution to provide custom workflows, processes, integration with their own sort of enterprise systems, and so on. What are the benefits of these sort of consortium-based model? Their benefits actually twofold. From an operational standpoint, the main benefit is the partnership, which is the key to sustainability of this type of platform. So under that, what you have is library operating and maintaining or looking after the sort of the technical infrastructure for the platform, while the institutions are essentially just focusing on the curatorial aspects of the work. But in doing so, it really kind of fosters a type of cooperation and collaboration that that hasn't been seen much in this country across the sort of the research and the scientific landscape. And of course, the institutions and the partners, and they're actually referred to as sort of partners rather than clients in this sort of model. They have their own customized research institutional repository, and where they can sort of have their autonomy and sort of independence within certain parameters and boundaries, of course. And of course they can have the there's a self-archiving support because of partners and institutions. They know that the content that gets uploaded or published to the portal it goes straight into the library's digital preservation system, where the longevity of the content is ensured. And there's sort of other benefits in terms of streamlining the content submission and so on. But across the board, the library provides the necessary guidance, support, and help as and when needed. There are also benefits from the curatorial sort of standpoint. In particular, having this platform in a run in a collaborative manner, the curation, the responsibility to curate these wide sort of diverse range of content is really shared among the partners. It's just not the responsibility, only the responsibility of the library. So thereby creating a environment for sustainable curation of the content. But all of this sort of leads to, sort of a collaborative growth among the partners and within the sort of wider sort of research communities. And that is key to ensuring a sustainable ecosystem for open research in the country. So Okay, so I don't have time to go through all of this, and I don't expect you to come see that as well. But all this two, 3-tier service model is underpinned by an extensive technical infrastructure, mostly provided by Fixture. And what we have, I'm just going to focus on a couple of key things here. So you have, institutions, university researchers, and what have you, having their sort of own space with their own branding and everything, so where they can actually do their sort of own curatorial work, publishing content, assigning DOIs, metadata management, getting statistics and reports, and so on. But all this content is disseminated through a unified access layer. So as far as the users are concerned, they're accessing the content the same way they would for another institution, or even for the global sort of Monaro platform. And to support that, we have a set of processes and workflows that are administered, curated, and supported by the library staff or the Monaro staff, with the help of Fixture's technical support team as well. And it utilizes the API to support all of that, and all of this is integrated with the digital preservation system there for digital preservation and curation. Okay. And here's a couple of examples of the institutional spaces in Monaro. As you can see, they have their own URL and branding and so on. I encourage you to have a look. So just give you a bit of a progress report. So we've been running Monaro for 2 years now, and it's I think I'm pleased to share that we've made some steady progress. There's over 7,000 items deposited and published from over 30 institutions, and which have had more than 100,000 downloads. And we've signed 2 universities, one of which will give you a presentation of their work. So it's safe to say that we've made some steady progress. But there's and in the immediate future, we'll work more closely with QIDIC because they also have their own portal, but that's mostly metadata only. But there is a use case to have a bidirectional sort of integration to enhance the visibility and accessibility of all the content that we're publishing. Okay, so suffice it to say that setting up a national research repository is not an easy task. As I said, we've been having this conversation with QIDIC for several years, and it only took a pandemic for us to kind of build this repository. But I think in developing and operating Monaro, I think we've made some confident first step towards developing a sustainable ecosystem, for managing and disseminating research. But there's a lot more work to be done. In fact, if you look up Monaro, you'll find that most of the content is actually traditional research papers. We're very thin on non-traditional research outputs, in particular research data. And if we, and you need to do more work on that, but that requires more awareness, and that awareness would then lead to good research data management practices, which would then lead to production of good quality research data. And this is where we need a lot more help from Dr. Al-Waleed. Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Arif. That was very interesting. You got an extra minute because you mentioned my name 5 times. So that's fidelity. Keep that in mind when you come up. So we have also a workshop tomorrow about this topic. So if you're more interested about to know more, please join us for the workshop tomorrow. Next we have that was your thank you note. Our next presentation is from Ms. Shada Al-Aoun from the Kuwait Institute of Scientific Research in Kuwait, with the title of Kuwait Institute for Scientific Research Digital Repository for Science and Technology. Ms. Shada, please join us.
Hi, I'm Shada Al-Aoun from Kuwait Institute for Scientific Research, actually from the National Scientific and Technical Information Center, which is part of QISR, which is the Kuwait Institute for Scientific Research. QISR is promoting scientific and applied research in the country, and only science and technology, not medicine or any other branches. And the most fields the QISR interested in are like water, food, petroleum, and energy. That's the main projects being done at QISR. I'm going to take you in a different journey than my friend here. It's more maybe a little bit of what's happening inside our repository. And before starting talking about the repository, it's been a very long journey, really a very long journey, because of all what we suffer from: budget cuts, human resources not available. So actually, me and my colleague started the initiative and try to get the funds from from Kisser. And we started very little, but we aimed very high. The first goal or the first intention was to build a national repository for Kuwait. And then after all these cuts and frustration, we decided, okay, we'll start with Kisser and then we'll head to the national after getting the funds needed. So why KDR? At the beginning, when we thought about KDR, the most important thing for us was collecting the local data. So for us was thinking of, okay, the researchers, they print their papers, they in different resources, and it's everywhere there, but there's local data which nobody knows about it in science and technology. It's hidden there in the drawers, in the laptops. The researchers are not sharing them. They just use them for their presentations or their projects, and then they keep them somewhere. And this is not only at Kisser, at the national level. So the thinking was, okay, let's start with a very unique collection we have, which we know it's not published anywhere, which we call it Kisser reports. And Kisser technical reports are the output of each project running in Kisser. So each project in Kisser has a proposal, then a progress report, amendment, and goes on till the final report. These are not published anywhere, and it's kept in the library to be used by selective users. And also these reports are divided into 3 levels of security: general, which is available for the public, and then restricted, which is available for certain users, and confidential, which is not allowed to be published or seen by any unless we take the permission of the DG of Kisser and the clients. This is the request of a client that we don't share the information. So we thought about that and we said, okay, we'll start with this, and then we will look with the researchers about the white papers, studies been done for the economy, and we found out that there's certain studies for Kuwait, and somebody was looking for it and we didn't know about it, and we discovered, so we put it as another collection, that special studies for Kuwait. So anything in this repository, you wouldn't find any copy in the world. I'm telling you, because this is only for Kisser what do you call it, intellectual property. But it is open for the public. You can search it. But for the restricted and confidential, you will have only the abstract and the metadata. The general, you will have the full report there. Of course, in the KDR was Kuwait Digital Repository, and now we call it Kisser Digital Repository. Thank God it starts with K, so we don't need to change the name. So the KDR was, of course, to ensure the local data, it's available. And we are really, really looking forward to go to the government places. And I'm sure we'll find lots of papers and studies there hidden that nobody knows about it, and we need to share them. Like some surveys with Ministry of Health, with Ministry of Energy, these old papers that we don't know, surveys, we don't know about them. Of course, to avoid duplication and copying. The duplication, that means if somebody in the research centers, they want to start a project, they can always go to the repository and check if this has been done before, where did it stop, where they can start. So we'll avoid any duplication in the efforts and the money. And of course, sharing whatever we have with the others, even at the level of the metadata. So, okay, we should have changed this Kuwait Digital Repository. It is Kisser Digital Repository for Science and Technology, and it is funded at the beginning by government initiative. And after that, the fund was cut, and we were left only with the first phase. Okay, and of course, the data, it will go with government. We are hoping government and non-government organizations to be part of that of that repository. Okay. The goals was, of course, the main goal was not only digitize whatever we have, but digital preservation for what we have. Because at the end, this is a national asset, and we want to keep it for a long time, being able to retrieve it and search it. Okay. Maybe I might not go with the flow of the presentation. I just starting to talk about it from the beginning. So, of course, the scope is only science and technology. That's what we are covering here, and what is KISR is specialized in. Archive whatever submitted by governmental and non-governmental institutes. It should serve different type of formats. Printed, non-printed, pictures, multimedia, whatever is there, we can house it in. Now, how did we start about the repository? It was a long journey because we took like almost 2 years of studying what is available on the market and what we can use. And our main concern was the Arabic language. The Arabic language at the level of OCRing it, of retrieving it as much as accurate as possible. And after our review of the market and some visitation being done in Europe and in our region, we decided to go to Biblioteca Alexandria repository. And that's because, especially for the Arabic language, because many institutes in the Arab language, especially in England, recommended that because it goes to the root of the word in Arabic. It has this ability. In the OCRing, they are achieving like more than 90% in the OCRing accuracy. So at the end, we went to Biblioteca Alexandria using their digital asset repository for retrieving and searching, and using their digital asset factory for managing the digitization process. So this is phase 1, it was KISR. Phase 2, this is the expected partners. As you know, KFIS, Kuwait Foundation for Advanced Sciences, Public Authority for Applied. This is like PIET with the university. Many local government, which we didn't start yet with them. We're just starting with KISR and still having problems with. Of course, we are cooperating with Biblioteca Alexandria, and then just for the abbreviations, I'll call it BA. This is how the project workflow went. Of course, we prepared the infrastructure, which at the beginning was just finding some money to buy and to get the license. For the content, actually, we have a very selective criteria to put in the repository. As I said, we need only local data, which are not available anywhere. This is the starting. I'm not sure the future maybe will be a little bit open for others, but for now, we want just to distinguish it as a very unique repository for Kuwait. Whoever wants something not published outside, he will find it there. Then, of course, the metadata, the systems we are using, our ILS, we get the data from the ILS and we feed it to the DAF, the Digital Asset Factory, which is provided from BA. And then after doing the digitization process in DAF, we just upload it and publish it on DAR. Okay. Oh. Oh, the same one. Okay, this is the digital preservation process, just collecting the materials. Then we just choose from it, then it goes to the pre-digitization process, then the digitization process, which we preserve, and then we publish and get it to the users. Now, our users, of course, any user wants to print the whole report. I don't know why they do that, but they always want a printed copy of the reports. And we have limited the printing of the reports in the for these projects, technical reports. And we are promoting that we are encouraging the reusing of the data, but not to reproduce the data itself. We don't want to just make a copy of what is needed. You can copy a table, you can download a paragraph, whatever information needed from the report. You don't need to have a full copy of that report. And we are really finding it very difficult to convince the users, although our users are PhD holders, they are researchers at high levels, but still they want the full copy. And we are trying to just spread the awareness of how to use this this repository. Okay, I think this is okay. So as I said, we have the digital assets factory, then the DAR and the publishing. And the digital objects, we have proposals, we have pictures, we have videos, we have progress reports, final reports, and we have technical reports so far in that collection. This is just an explanation of DAF. It's managing the workflow of our digitization process and integrates with our ILS. We have now like 4 manpower fully dedicated to work for the repository. At the beginning, we started with 1 on that team. And then, alhamdulillah, after we just been 4 like 2 years ago. So this is the life circle of the object when it gets to the how we deal with it. First, it's been cataloged in the ILS, then it's been scanned, processed, OCR'd in the digitization process, quality checking, and then publishing. We do many quality checking on the report. We do pre and after quality checking for the metadata, especially so we don't have any wrong metadata or some metadata that we don't want them to show. Okay, that's another picture. Well, we are very happy with our digital lab, and we reached, after this long journey, we reached to around 10,000 technical reports, and this is almost the whole collection of KISS reports. And we reached a level where we had a very big backlog, and we are done with it. And now we are reaching the point that the reports are taking their normal cycle of digitization, of cataloging, digitization, and going to the repository. We don't have any backlogs, nothing. طبعا report viewer, that's how we view it on the DAR. Okay, that's the searching, that's the document type. Okay, that's the collections that we have. KISS reports. Government initiative, that means it's an initiative funded by the government. So the funds come from the government, not from KISS itself. And we differentiate it because KISS reports are funded differently. So we have GI, we have KISS reports, we have Kuwait government collection, which is specially for the ministries. But we didn't start yet with them. And then special studies, the studies that have been made and we didn't know about it, and it's hidden in some divisions. And we have 7 studies that we found out now and kept it on the repository. And this is, you can retrieve it all. The languages being used, of course, Arabic and English, and we can do French, but we don't have. Okay, so this is the statistics of it. And as I said, there is confidential, general, restricted. So also this is, as you see, the restricted is 54%, which is really, we're trying to open access for the rest of the reports. We've been communicating with the clients, communicating with the ministries to at least the ones who's been for 20 years that we want to publish it and make it open access. So this is the latest statistics. Now, the coming development, which we are going to start by the end of this year, is moving from DAR to BAM, which is Bibliotheca Alexandria Multimedia Repository, which will allow us to use different platforms, creating more different groups of collections, use it in different gadgets and different environments. So it will have a big push for our users and for our collection. The digitalization process, it's the same, but just the interface. This is some of the features for BAM. Okay, that it can publish several collections. It can handle more than 600,000 media objects, which I don't think we will reach that. And of course, data editing and syncing tools. Okay, the synchronization, now we don't have a synchronization tool between the ILS and the KDR, which caused a little bit of confusion, because if you change the metadata in the KDR, you need to go literally and change it on the ILS. With BAM, whenever you change any metadata on the KDR, it will be reflected on your URLs and vice versa. So this is really a very good feature in it. And it, of course, it accepts any format: photo, book, video, maps, DAISY viewers, as they call it. Now, what is our challenges? Our challenge is awareness and marketing. We need to market the repository at least at the level of KISR. Then we need to market it at the national level to get more funds, to get more collections in it, and awareness. Manage more content, of course, and that maybe leads to manpower problems, because it's not easy to hire in the government sector these days. So we need to see within the national staff members. Okay, I understand. I reach. Okay, all right. I'm done. I'm almost done. Of course, maintain the budget. We have a budget for the maintenance, for the development, and we have to keep fighting for it all the time. And of course, we are willing that more national participants will be in. We are looking into KFAS, because KFAS is a funding institute, and hopefully that they will add more money to it to just scale it to the next scale. And thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very interesting, and also to see a different perspective of a repository that's in an advanced stage of its evolution compared to the first talk. And one word you mentioned that Dr. Arif also mentioned is awareness. I would like to come back to that in a discussion. But before that, we have one more presentation from Fidelity Firi, Hamad bin Khalifa University, entitled Fostering Open Science Through Collaboration, the case of HBKU and Qatar National Library, Manara, Qatar Research Repository.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fidelity, and I'm from HBKU Library. My presentation today, as Dr. Walid has said, is titled Fostering Open Science Through Collaboration, the case of HBKU and Qatar National Library. What I want to do today basically is to actually take you through what we've gone through as a library to be able to actually launch our repository on Manara. So this basically is a presentation that is actually hands-on, things that we've done, so that actually maybe if there are any other institutions within maybe here in Qatar that would want to actually, maybe have a space within Manara, they can learn from what we've done, and this could be something that can be helpful in their journey. Yes. So basically, as I said, my presentation is going to look at some of the activities that we've done as a library to be able to actually, how can I say, launch Manara, which we did, I think, a few weeks ago. So I'm going to talk about, for example, like we had to sign a contract with QNL to be able to actually have our repository on Manara. We actually had to do a training. QNL actually came to our library to actually give a workshop on how to manage the repository. We had to do a branding of the HBKU repository. We had to look at ways in which we can actually populate and upload articles that are open access onto the repository. We also had, I think, because we want to host HBKU thesis on Manara, so we had to do some customization. I think Dr. Walid was very helpful. We kept on going to QNL and tell them, we want this. They had to talk to Fixshare until this was resolved. I think this was done successfully. And then after this was done, the customization, I'll talk about the upload of the thesis, basically. And then thereafter, I'll try to show you what we've done, how our platform looks like. And we've also created a LibGuide that helps the users to be able to actually have like guidelines on how they're supposed to create an account, upload items to Manara. But before I do that, I just wanted to share with you some basic information about HBKU as a university. We have 6 colleges under HBKU: College of Islamic Studies, College of Humanities and Social Sciences, College of Science and Engineering, College of Law, College of Health and Life Science, and College of Public Policy. We also have 3 research institutions within actual HBKU: Qatar Environment and Energy Research Institute. We have Qatar Biomedical Research Institute. We have also Qatar Computing Research Institute. So we have 6 colleges and we have 3 research institutions. In terms of the programs that are offered by the college, we have, I think, 28 master's programs. We have 12 PhDs and we have 4 bachelor's programs. We have a total of 980 students and 120 faculty members. Of course, these are not researchers, but these are faculty members. Researchers, we did not include people from the various, I think, research institutions. And also, I would like to talk about the library itself. HBKU has 2 libraries now. We have the main library located in the Minaretin building, and we also have an engineering library, which is in manufacturing building, I think former Texas AM. So we adopted that library, so it's under the HBKU. Our main library has a sitting capacity of 330 for our students and the various researchers that use our library. We have 50 computers that they have access to. We have 20 PhD carrels, like these are spaces dedicated for PhD students. So they actually reserve these spaces for a semester, and then after that they have to renew. We have 3 scanners if they want to scan something in the library. We have 2 photocopying machines for free. We don't charge for that. Yes. Yes. But inshallah, in the future, we're planning to introduce a fee, but for now, it's still free. Yes. We are in the main library, we have 3 study rooms, which people can book on our website. We have also an audio-visual room where people can actually have audio. If you want to watch something, you can actually do that in the audio-visual room. As a library, we subscribe to over 250 databases. This is a vast source of actual resources for our faculty. We have over 250,000 ebooks. We subscribe to over 50,000 e-journals, and we maintain a collection of about 50,000 print books. So this is the collection that we have as a library. But we also have the engineering library in former Texas AM. We call it the manufacturing building. We have 8 study rooms there, 8 individual study spaces, and we have 24 computers. So basically, this gives you an overview of HBKU as a university and probably what the library looks like. We have now a staff of about 9 people in the library. It's small, but we are growing. Yeah. So the question is, why did we want to actually have an institutional repository? I think the idea to have an institutional repository was where we started talking about it last year, before I think we met Dr. Walid with the offer to have actually host our institutional repository and on Manara, I think we realized that in order to be able to be visible, we need to be able to have our own platform where we can showcase the research output of our institution. So this is something that we've been talking about. And when Dr. Al-Walid, I've mentioned him more than 5 times, I think. I'm safe now. So we took advantage of that opportunity to explore the possibilities of actually partnering with QNL. The other reason why we thought it was important to have an institutional repository is because it is one way of trying to actually preserve, I think, materials that would otherwise not be visible, like research proceedings, conference proceedings. These are sometimes people have conferences and they just stack them in their maybe computer, and then after a period of time, the computer becomes obsolete and all this information just gets lost. So this is why we thought this would be a very good idea. And most important, I think it also fosters collaboration among, I think, library staff, faculty, and also between institutions, of course. Now, this collaboration goes beyond now HBKU. It is now a collaboration between 2 entities. So what did we do to be able to actually have our repository hosted by Manara? We contacted Dr. Al-Walid, we had a meeting, and we agreed that we needed to have a kind of contract agreement so that each party knows what the expectations are. So I think after that was around November last year, we kept communicating, and Dr. Al-Walid finally came back to us with a contract from the legal department. We also sent it to our legal department for review. Questions were asked, and then eventually it was agreed that whatever was in the contract was agreeable to both parties. And then eventually in January this year, we had the contract signed. And after that, we started working towards now actualizing the institutional repository on Manara. Yes. But then on our part, what was expected, I'm not going to talk about QNL. I will just talk to what HBKU is expected from the agreement. HBKU had to appoint a focal point person who is going to be in charge about HBKU repository, and of course that is me. That was done, at least. HBKU has to promote the repository among the HBKU community. I think so far we've done something. I'll talk about it as we go, I think, towards the end of the presentation. And then we need to coordinate training with QNL. We did that. First of all, we had the workshop with, I think, Dr. Walid and Alenka. They came to, and Dr. Sorry, the name again, I always, yeah, Arif, Dr. Arif. Yes, so Alenka is there at the back. So, and Jakob, they came to our library, and then they took us through the training, and it was very valuable because we learned a lot from there. And of course, we had our team also present to actually learn from our colleagues. And also just ensure that when people are trying to upload content to Manara, they understand what the terms and conditions are. Because, you know, sometimes I met one professor, he says, no, but I uploaded something to Manara and it was rejected. I said, probably could be the copyright issues, or there's something that you maybe in that article that doesn't meet the requirements on Manara. So this is something that we have to look at and see if we can engage faculty to be able to educate them so that they understand what Manara is all about. Customization of the repository. What did we do? After we spoke to Dr. Al-Walid, we tried to come up with a draft policy. So the policy is still in draft form, but we drafted something. This is something we're working on. It's not yet approved by our management, but we have a document in place that we can always fall back onto. It shows what kind of content should be uploaded to Manara. It shows who can actually upload to Manara, and other guidelines that like what kind of items are supposed to be uploaded to Manara. So this document is still in draft form, but we have it. And if we need to use it, even if it's draft form, I guess we can. Yeah. And then we also did branding. I think I'll show you at the end of the presentation. We have about 10 placeholders. These are like unique spaces within the repository for the various 6 colleges and research institutions. So we had to brand them to be able to actually distinguish these from other research institutions that are hosted by Manara. So it took a bit of time because you have to talk to communications. They have to agree what goes onto another platform because it represents the institution. I think my colleagues were working with communications, trying to figure out how the banner is going to be, what is the dimension, and all that kind of stuff, the logos. So it took a bit of time, but eventually we had the information and we shared with our colleagues at QNL, and this was done, and the HBKU repository was branded. Yes. Yeah, so when this was, after the branding, we started thinking about how do we then now populate our repository. We can either maybe promote this with the faculty right now and try to make them deposit items into Manara, or we can go out there and look for publications that are open access and try to make these actually populate these onto Manara. And so that when we go to them, we can say, oh, for example, like, I mean, we have uploaded these articles, and then they can see maybe a friend's article is there. Then they can be encouraged to try and actually also publish on Manara, maybe the open access. So what we did is, first of all, we got a complete Excel file of all publications on Cyber for HBKU-related authors. And then we shared this information with the QNL team, and they were able to decipher and only actually pick out open access journal articles. And these have since been uploaded to Manara. So this is one success project that we did, and this has been uploaded. And if you go to Manara, you can see that, so to our HBK repository, you can see that our numbers are slightly quite higher than most of the other institutions on Manara. We also did the same with the Web of Science. We went and also extracted an Excel sheet, shared with QNL, and then they needed to just counter check that the articles from the Web of Science, there's no duplicate from Cyber. But this is now something that is ongoing. I think the upload is something that QNL is working on, and hopefully, inshallah, with the, I don't know, Dr. Al-Walid, when that will be done, but it's something that is being done continuously on a daily basis. But this is, something that we are working on. And then we've also begun uploading thesis and dissertation. What we've done is we've segregated the thesis in 2 years. So far, we've shared theses that were published on. So what we did is also, again, we went to ProQuest and harvested metadata about all the theses published by HBK student onto ProQuest. We got this information. We shared the Excel sheet with QNL. And then we have agreed that we start a batch load of the 2023 thesis. So this is ongoing. I think it started about 2 weeks ago, and probably we're hoping in the next 3 weeks or so this will be done. After this is done, we move on and go to the next batch, which is for 2022. Launch. So on the 7th of October, we launched Manara. We sent out, I think, a communication to HBKU community and beyond, mentioning that the library has a new service, has a new platform that the community, the HBK community, can take advantage of. So we launched that. So right now, Manara HBK repository is now live. We have a dedicated tab on our website, which allows you to go to the HBK website, you go to HBK repository, and then from there you can go into Manara and search and be able to find if the articles is there or whatever item you are looking for, you can find it within Manara. And then we have, you can also, for example, search the content. On our repository, it's available through Google, the Google Scholar, and also the library's federated search engine. So if you just go to the library website, search, and if the article is in Manara, it will be able to bring it up to you without really having to go into Manara. Yes. And then we also, as I said, we created a dedicated website. It shows like step by step on how you can be able to actually, for example, create an account, how to upload, what the terms and conditions are. And we also have, like, for example, if they have challenges, we've put like contact details for Manara and for a staff at HBK Library to be able to actually get in touch in case there are challenges that they are facing. Yes. So I hopefully I can, let me see.
Feel free.
Okay. Thank you very much. So this is our HBKU library page. So as you can see, the HBKU repository is here. And then what we've done is we've put the instructions here on how to submit. On the instructions, we have like the LibGuide. So on the LibGuide, it gives you more information on how, first of all, it talks about what is HBKU repository. It gives a background of the partnership that we have with QNL. And then from there, you have like, what is it all about? It gives you information like, just so that whoever is going to actually use the LibGuide can understand why the LibGuide was created. But beyond that, we have actually a tab like for, say, deposit. So it provides like a breakdown on how you can be able to actually submit or open an account. So what we've done is on the LibGuide, for example, is like this pop-up picture. If you clicked on there, if there's an instruction that you need to follow and then you have challenges, you can actually do that and it comes. And then this is what we've done. So all this is where you see the camera icon, it shows there's a picture which you can actually refer to be able to actually probably understand how or what you are supposed to do. Yes. So, and then for the contact information, we have Manara team. They can contact somebody at Manara or at HBKU. There's my contact details there in the event that they have challenges. So we've created this guide to be able to actually help our users so that they can be able to find it less challenging to be able to open an account, to be able to upload items. And if they forget, they can always actually go back. Yes. So let me go back to the repository. Let me just type something here. Okay, let me just do this first of all. Institutions. So this is Manara, the platform for Manara, where all the other institutions are put. But what we've done is, like you can see, others is just like a name, Georgetown University. But with us, we have like a logo for HBKU, so somebody can be able to easily identify that this is what they are looking for in case they go through Manara on a QNL website. But if they go through our website, they will land direct onto our page. So you remember I talked about the branding. So we had, this is what we call the banner. So for each particular, so this is like the homepage. We have like, I think this should be HBKU headquarters, I guess. And then this is what our comms provided, and this is what they want to appear on our repository. And then we have the HBKU logo, which shows you that this is HBKU. And if you click here, there's a bit of information about HBKU as an institution and what we actually do. Yes. Then coming down, if you come to institutions, you can see that again, with the various colleges, they have also, for example, if I can show you this, it has also like its own individual banner and also its logo, College of Health and Life Science. So this applies to all the other colleges. Also, they have a different banner, a different logo to just distinguish again, say, for example, between the various entities within HBKU. Yes. And then let me go back. I just wanted to share with you. So far, we have 3,182 items uploaded to Manara. And these are the views, these are the downloads. If you want more statistics, you can click onto there, you can get more data, and then you can see how much impact we've created the last 3-4 months. Also, when we started uploading items to Manara. But I'd like to mention that all this success that we've achieved could not have been possible, first of all, if we do not collaborate with QNL, but most importantly, also the collaboration among the library team. We have, I think, Mahmoud there, the lead, who has been very helpful to get technical information, all these Excel files to actually have them available for us to share with you guys. Joyce has been very instrumental to actually create the LibGuide for us. So credit goes to her. We have Noor. I always nag at her. We're in the same office. I'm talking Manara, Manara. She's now calling me Mr. Manara. Everyone is calling me Mr. Manara. And yes, because I always nag to her and say, yes. So I've assumed the name of Mr. Manara. So basically, this is my presentation, and thank you very much for listening. Sure.
Thank you, Fidelity, or Mr. Manara. I'm Mr. Open Access here. But this is really good. May I ask all the other speakers to join us on stage? We have now some moment for discussion. I just want to point, Fidelity, thank you for showing us how a partnership could work between institutions in Qatar. And thank you also for giving us a list of reminders of things that we have to finish. So by next week. So, what we'll do right now, we have about 20 minutes, more or less, less actually, yeah, to have some questions. And I would like to thank all the speakers for a really wonderful presentation. We can see also lots of parallels and similarities about the different challenges, and come back to that. But I would like to open the floor first for the audience if you have any questions. There's a question from Dr. Jalal. Becca, I'll come to you.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, all of you, for this informative presentation about these projects. So my first question to Dr. Arif about Manara. So I see that you say that you have 3 tiers when you like starting from the one individuals, then up to 3 for the institutions. Regarding the first one, for the individuals to upload their own content, you know that, for example, I can upload my photos, I can upload my personal writings. It can be well written or not. So do you think do you really receive these kind of contents, and do you have like committees as a peer reviewed committee to check all of these and then revise it and then accept it or not? The first question. The second question, as you said, you have these 3 tiers. For example, the last one for the institutions, and you said that you have about 30 institutions already participated. So I got confused because the last presentation about the University of Khalifa, yes, and they have their own repository, and it is also within Manara. So do they like? Is it duplicate? They have their own repository, and then you have also Manara, or it's only just a platform to upload their content to be there in Manara in a single or centralized database for all Qatar. Yeah, I think, or because I have another question for Dr. Ms. Shada, if possible, or later.
So can I answer my questions before I forget? Because there's a couple of them. So thank you for these questions. I think that's very useful. It also kind of adds perspective towards to what's been presented. So the first question is about what kind of content is accepted for publication. So there is sort of set of guidelines. So we are really looking for the platform accepts research output, not necessarily the picture of the researcher or anything else. So there is certain item types. So when the researcher uploads content, they have to select an item type. So these are sort of documented on the website itself. So it ranges from traditional journal articles to thesis records, as well as posters, presentations, research data sets, data management plans, and so on. So whatever they're uploading needs to correspond to that, essentially. But that's not the end of the workflow. So they can upload anything they want, of course. They can select, research data management plan or a journal article and upload a copy of their picture, because that could potentially be a research output. You don't know that. So, but then it goes to, we don't have a peer review panel per se, but it does go through 2 levels of semantic and sort of structural verification. But I need to sort of make a disclaimer that whoever is doing it is not a domain expert. So we don't have the capacity to assess the quality of the content in light of the work, the research that's been done, more of a sort of discipline specific perspective. But what we do check is that there's a number of checks there, and it's done by the Manara team, some of which are present here in the audience here. So we check whether the item uploaded does correspond to the item type, of course, and there is the copyright check as well. There is also curation done on the item itself if the if the item doesn't have sufficient descriptive metadata, whether it's keyword or the categories are not as useful as it can be. So the team behind the scenes, especially for the content that gets uploaded to the global portion of the Manara, I'll come to the institution specific sort of aspects, which is related to your second question a bit later. But the item that's uploaded to the global portion of the of Manara is checked for these various sort of things, and only if it passes those criteria, then it's accepted for publication. Otherwise, there's a communication sent to the researcher through the curation sort of the portal, the functions that we cannot accept this publication because we are missing this information and so on. Then the researcher has the opportunity to kind of provide that information. So that hopefully answers your first question. Now the second question is an interesting way of looking at that. So is it a duplicate? No, it's not duplicated. So the Manara is essentially a global platform within which our institution could have their own sort of a space. But anything that's published, it also appears in the global section of Manara. So it's not essentially duplicated, but as the search, depending on where you're searching, whether you're searching within the HBKU space or you're searching you go to manara.qnl.qa, you search for things, as long as it's there in one place, it will appear there. But it will also show that it's actually uploaded by HBKU. Now, the question about, we have 30 plus institutions, whether, it's all sort of, from them. So the answer is not as straightforward. So we do have partnerships with 2 institutions who are actively, who have their own spaces within Manara, and they're actively curating and publishing their own content. But we do, as part of the library's open access work, we do we do actively kind of seek out open access, research outputs by other institutions, and we publish it on their behalf with the hope that one day we will have their partnership with them so they could also see their own outputs within their own space. Hopefully that answers the question. Thank you.
And hopefully we get Fidelity to talk with other partners to convince them. So Dr. Jalali had a second question for...
Yeah, the question for Ms. Shada regarding the Kisr. I had done a research in 2009, and I came to Kuwait regarding this. I remember there was a project about adopted by the Gulf Cooperation Council to have a digital or a Gulf digital database for all the Gulf countries to upload their thesis, dissertation, and so on. At that time, they said they are facing some problems. So I don't know if you can mention about this project, if it's really still available or not.
Okay, it used to call JISR. JISR, I think Gulf Science and Research something, I can't remember. Well, actually, it started earlier than this. And again, it's lack of budget and human resources. So we started to build it, and the database was there, and it was, partners were adding some data. But to tell you the truth, we started science and technology, and then we ended up with other branches of science getting into, like art and other branches, which I don't know what did they do at that time, because we said that it should be only science and technology. Anyway, I think 2 years ago, after the 2020, after we are facing so much problems with funding the project, Saudi Arabia took the project and they are working on it. But to tell you the truth, I don't know where did they reach on that project. But we send them all the databases the database we have, and they said they will take over from there.
I believe you have a question from Rebecca.
Thank you for a really interesting and engaging presentation. I really enjoyed it. My question is kind of fresh in my mind. I was just talking to Joyce about this in the break at HBKU. And I should say, I'm not expecting you to have a solution to this, but I'm really interested to hear your thoughts. And that's really in the context of, we heard this in the keynote yesterday, the increasing prevalence and complexity of research integrity issues that we're seeing across the board, and the increased number of retractions as a result of that. And I think one of the complexities in that from a publisher perspective is the various databases that content is surfaced in, and ensuring how that chain can kind of carry on, that there's a retraction notice in indexing and abstracting databases. And I was wondering from the institutional repository perspective, have you come across this, and what your thoughts are on how to handle it?
Is it for me?
Oh, sorry. Any of you, all of you.
You have the mic.
I have the mic. Okay, thank you very much. What I can say is that for now, with regards to HPKU, what we're doing right now is once we harvest the metadata that we get, we share with QNL. So I would like to find that from Dr. Al-Walid now. If he has a, sorry. Yeah, probably maybe Dr. Al-Walid can, because we share the data, and then in the initial stages, we've agreed that we are going to do batch uploads so that we can actually, at the end of maybe the year, we can have so much content, and when we go to the faculty members, they can see the importance of depositing in Manara. So I think right now, Dr. Walid, would you?
I mean, I'm a moderator here, so I shouldn't be asking questions. But maybe Dr. Arif, you have something to add?
Well, before we go to Dr. Al-Walid for a more definitive solution to this problem, because we can solve it right now. But I think the question is an interesting one, and it has sort of many layers to it. So is it the identification of a questionable research output, or is it to prevent it from the beginning, or perhaps make people aware that, this is not the right approach? So there, depending on how depending on your interest, the answer, or perhaps the challenge could be different. But I think it all comes down to, first of all, the intention of the researcher. What are they really trying to do? Are they really truly trying to cut corners, or is it just lack of awareness, or lack of best practices, or lack of effective research output management practices? And I like to think it's more of the latter, that they don't really have, and which is I was trying to kind of allude to that in my presentation. There is a lack of a standardized approach to research output management in the country itself, and there's also reservation about publishing research data. So I think the question of integrity of research output could be addressed if the researcher knows and interested, or perhaps understands the value of publishing a sort of more than just a traditional sort of research outputs. So when we see more and more research data along with the metadata that goes with it, whether it's the workflows, the software, the methodologies are published in greater detail, then I think the challenge of assessing the integrity of the research would be less difficult, because that would then enable an easier way to validate or verify the research they've done, or the claims they're trying to make within their publications. In fact, some of the journals are now requiring data sets to be published along with the research outputs. So that's kind of my perspective towards it. But as I said, it depends on how which way you are sort of targeting it. But I'll hand you over to Dr. Al-Walid for a more comprehensive solution to this problem.
I'm a moderator. I do have opinion on this, but we have one more question from Dr. Salah. And please specify who the question is, or we'll be just passing the question.
So thank you all for the nice presentation. And I think at this point you need more clarification, because the first question was about application, the second question from Tara and Francis, and I have a discussion with them regarding a journal. So I want to give you a simple example. So imagine that we have a graduate student from HBQ and he's gonna to submit a white paper to your repository. So would you accept this paper or no? Arif, please, for you, yes. Just a yes or no. Without a mic, you can say with no.
I would say it depends.
Okay, it's
But
fine.
however, if it's original work and open access copyright is very clear. We have
It's
clear
a white-
guidelines.
It's the white paper.
Yeah, white paper, and the author accepts the copyright, the different types of copyrights that
You
we
would accept it.
It should be accepted
Okay, so
because
do-
it should be considered as a research output affiliated with a Qatari institution, and that's the
I
one of
see.
the-
Okay. So imagine that this student to have some improvement during the work, or if there is some lab experiments and he had a new modified version of the paper. So he's gonna to upload another version of the paper. Would you accept it?
Yes, it would be published as a new version. So we have a clear version management
And
within
you will delete the old
Fixture.
one.
Sorry?
You will delete the old one.
No. It's a version tracked. So you could actually check the previous one as well as the and this is one of the features that's built into the
Okay. So
platform.
do you assign a reference number for both versions?
It is there is a DOI that assigned with the versioning. So same DOI. If you access the DOI, you will go to the latest one. But through the same
so
DOI, you can
that
go to the
is
previous.
very interesting. So if you're gonna to
It's like
assign
5 questions. Sorry,
No,
sorry.
these are just simple questions. So if you are assigning reference number, so imagine that I'm gonna to cite this paper and you already index in Google Scholar. So I would cite this paper. Imagine that this paper has been peer reviewed, going for other journal that is outside the QF and has been published. For example, Journal of Atmospheric Sciences. There is a specific DOI for this journal, and we have another DOI from your repository. So how would you do with this diet?
So I think I think we can go into further discussions about this because this is an interesting topic. But the short answer is there is a very granular way to capture relationship between different versions of the paper within the platform. We can actually link it to an external DOI with a meaningful relationship to say that either this is identical to or there is a related version and so on. I mean, there's like a whole sort of comprehensive guidelines when it comes to capturing relationship between different versions of a paper. But I think that requires further discussion.
Sorry, Salah. I'm sure we can discuss this. It's very interesting. I'm gonna ask one question to all of you, and in one sentence, the answer, right? In one sentence or less, or 0 sentences. Imagine it's 2030. What about your repository right now would you like to be different? One thing. Improvement or something new or something different?
Yeah, of course, improvement. I would like to be at the national scale at that point.
For me, I think I'll be more interested in preservation in terms of in case there's other versions of document formats that will be acceptable in the next 2, 3, 4 years. Are we going to still be able to access PDF? Or maybe there'll be another version of, I don't know, maybe. Oh. Okay, preservation. Preservation.
Okay, so before I give you my sentence, but just, because we are looking after preservation, so I think you're in good hands. So there's something you don't have to worry about. Now, what I'd like to see in there is more non-traditional research outputs. In fact, I would like to see Manara capturing more aspects of the wider research workflow, not just the data sets, but the software, the methodologies, and related things. So in fact, you could begin to kind of build. I know it's a long sentence, but you can begin to kind of build a comprehensive sort of research workflow through Manara, and that would be of great benefit to wider research, and even help to answer some of the questions related to integrity and other things.
Thank you very much. Yes. So please, thank you for your attention. Enjoy your lunch and see you after the break. Thank you so much. Thank you for the speakers.